Can to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is a sin. Ascend and word, bending birds, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the verses of reading. Hold on, you better catch a God throwing blessings. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.
Well, hello.
Hello, how you doing?
You know what? I am feeling much better. Last week was not that great, to be honest. And so I'm glad to be here with y'all again and breathing a little bit better.
I think they must have been going around because last week, I ain't gonna lie, last week sucked. I ain't even gonna lie about that.
His word, Dr. Sarah, and we're going to introduce you in just a moment, is suckage. So Craig likes the word suckage, and
I think that's accurate for last week.
Yeah.
Last week had
for sure
of suckage in it for a variety of reasons, and that's not why we're here. But I'm just saying, for whatever reason, your suckage was high. Last week must have been just somehow it was hashtag.
It was in the atmosphere. It was the atmosphere. But I do have to ask, because you're smiling this morning. Did you eat?
No, ma'am, I did not.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
No, but you know what? Today,
you're doing great.
You know what's funny is, and I appreciate that. And so, Dr. Prince is joining us. We not the formal introduction yet, but I'm just as you get you into the conversation. I have those moments when I get up and just the day just didn't start right. And today, whatever reason, I feel a little bit different. And I think Michelle and I've shared it with you before. If I don't cut my hair on a regular basis and shave, there's that is an example to me and a reminder to me that, hey, you're allowing that suckage and that the feeling of how you feel about yourself or the week or the days or the things that are going on, it begins to weigh, and it shows in my lack of cutting my hair, grooming. Not that I don't have enough hair to grow out and stay full. I have a little Chernobyl kind of thing going on over here.
Oh, Jesus. So, okay, it's starting.
You know what I'm saying? It's just one of them things, and I'll let my beard kind of grow out. And it's a thing. But I think if we continue to get ourselves motivated and keep our minds right, do the things it helps your disposition. Eggs, sunny side up. I don't eat sunny side up eggs, but I understand the concept. You know what I'm saying?
Again, absolutely. It's like making your bed, right? Which I don't do, but I hear.
Sarah, you don't make your bed?
No, I don't. My mother would be ashamed, but no, I don't. But in fairness, I get up before my husband, and I kind of feel like last one up.
Last one up. I feel you on that. Yeah. You know what? And you brought it up. You mentioned mom, parents. We're parents are, sometimes we're getting into this day and we're like, what in the world? So Craig, what shows up for you is if you're not cutting your hair, grooming. Sarah, maybe if you don't even think about the bed being made, maybe that might be a thing. For me, I was realizing, I was like, dang, I think for the first time ever, like I admitted, I was depressed at some point, and it was about my mother. And that's kind of what we're talking about, is this idea of parenting our parents and how is that showing up for us and concerns that we have. So I met Dr. Sarah Prince. We were a part of a program. I was a part of a program that she developed for coaching and all the wonderful things. And then in conversation, I was going to miss a class. I think that's what happened. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I need to talk to you because there's going to be several things. I'm going to be traveling for work and I really want to be a part, but I got to be able to make up this time. And so in that conversation, we were talking about moms, and I was like, I think me and Sarah might have the same mom. We were talking about driving and working with, you and I having kids and how the grandmothers are interacting with those kids, and remarrying after, loss of after being a widow, and all the things, and having mom stay at our house. And I'm like, are you sure your mom is not Mary Louise? And she's like, no, I'm pretty sure. your mom must be whatever. And I was like, yeah, we need to talk about this. And this has been
Mhm.
on our list of topics for Craig and I to talk about some time. So we got together. And so we're bringing to you Parenting Parents on today. And it's going to be exciting conversation. So I would love for Dr. Sarah Prince. Oh, we also have a similar alma mater. I was studying psychology, and you're studying what you were studying, and we're both adjunct faculty. And so all the things, Welding University, shout out to Welding University for bringing together amazing women. And Dr. Sarah Prince,
Yes.
I'd love for you to introduce yourself.
Yes. So I actually have my PhD in women's studies. I got it from Emory University, and the reason I went into women's studies, I was an English major. I think a lot of girls and women are who kind of are good at school, but don't really have any clear calling or direction. But I grew up with a single mother because my dad died when I was very young, and I was always impressed by her strength and fortitude and just her drive. Uh, and uh, I just was amazed by the women in my life who were just rocks and worked multiple jobs and did all the things. And yet, socially just were never applauded for that or really recognized for that, and sort of were quiet warriors all the time.
Mm,
So I did that, and then I, still loved writing, and I went to Walden and worked at Walden for 12 years, and then moved into consulting with TI Verbatim. But all through that, I've been fascinated, in particular, by women's issues, and through that, I've also raised my own children. And I think where Michelle and I really connected was we're both in a very similar position
mm-hmm,
where we have young children, or elementary age children, right?
mm-hmm.
Also, you have older children. We have mothers who are also parenting, but we're also trying
Hmm.
to hold up careers
Yes.
where we're needed and we are integral, and we're in high powered positions, and so figuring out how to balance those. And also, I think what you said earlier is there is some grief there too, right?
Mm-hmm,
Because the women that you always looked up to, that mother that always was that force in your life, you're realizing that you're sort of losing that, or you're
mm-hmm,
losing her to a certain degree. And so I don't think I had
mm-hmm,
ever fully registered that grief either until you said that today. Like, yeah, there's also
mm-hmm,
a part of that is grief, right? Part of
mm-hmm.
it is, um, you know, when they do things that are not like them, right? And don't make sense. There is some confusion, but also grief and
Yeah.
realization that they are not the people that they once were. And that's scary, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
So that
know.
was an introduction and a
No, I love it because it's going to jump us right in. Craig, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Yeah, I was. It's funny when you guys we've had a strategy session, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that day, since I was working and distracted, the connecting tissue didn't show itself. But
Okay.
when you mentioned the parts about watching your mother's kind of change and shift from the people that the pillars of strength that you knew them as, into
Mm-hmm.
some realization that at some point that, hey, I'm actually taller than you, kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and watching them shrink. I had that same issue when my dad was getting sick and declining.
Mm-hmm.
And I had that same exact feeling. I was like, oh man, that's not the same dude I used to know. And I thought he was taller, and all these
Mm-hmm.
things. I began to second guess my own memories of him.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was later kind of given to give me some solace was it's not as much that he's regressing and declining and shrinking away. I've grown more. I'm no longer the infant and toddler and the teenager that used to look up to the dad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm taller, bigger, stronger, faster, Bionic Man reference, right? We do a lot of music and TV references. So it helped me understand how I've grown
Mm-hmm.
and be able to, even so much so the last several days since our strategy, I've been thinking at some point my kids are going to parent me. And how do I want that to appear? Because you guys mentioned driving. Last story, and I'm going to let
Mm-hmm.
you ramble is
You're okay.
I think it was about 3 months ago. I had four of my sons here before. Two of them went away to college. and we were at night. We had a dinner somewhere, and I was 99% of the time on the primary driver, even though all of my sons, thank God, all five can drive, which is crazy. I actually hit a curb when I was making a left turn, and I thought to myself, "Holy crap! Am I losing my vision? Did I not see
Mm.
things? I saw it coming."
And I bet all 5 of your sons will probably never let you forget that
Live that
either.
down.
They
Nope.
roast me on a regular because Dad made a mistake, because I don't ever slip like that.
Right.
Yeah.
It's haunted me ever since. I'm like, okay, I need to get my eyes checked. Do I have night blindness, and what's going on?
She says you went all straight to diagnosis Google.
My
Dr. Google
problem
was
was right there. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
But at the same time, we all have to make sure that we acknowledge when we have a weakness, right? At a point where we can no longer do it, we gotta be willing to accept that you can't.
As you as you were talking though, Craig, I think for me it's a both and.
Yeah,
It's the idea that yes, I've grown, I'm bigger, stronger. I don't need my mom in the same way, and I have to acknowledge
yeah,
the decline that I've seen. I would be remiss if I don't know. I don't feel like I'm uh, feeling. I don't feel. I want to tap into that. I would feel ignorant if I did not acknowledge that my mom's cognitive and physical abilities, behaviors are not as disturbing as much as I want to celebrate my growth.
yeah.
Because I can acknowledge, like Sarah was saying, that my mom taught me everything I need to know about being a lady,
Sure.
like being a lady, how to walk, how to sit, how to do this, what type of undergarments to wear. Like, I have passed those things down to my daughter. There became a space where I can no longer rely on her for certain things because my lived experiences were so different. My mom has never been divorced, although she's been widowed. That's a different type of it's a similar loss in that it's a loss of a relationship, it's a death of a relationship, but she didn't have to contend with the ex or the exes or co-parenting or anything like that. So there became a time in my life where yes, I grew and I had to start relying on my experience and then reaching out to other places, but it didn't change the fact that I still wanted my mom, and my mom was no longer the person that I've always known her to be. And that is where the grief came in, Sarah.
Yeah.
I think that's really true. I mean, I think that's the piece for me too, is sort of seeing her grief as well. I mean, I was thinking
Mm,
kind of why that exists, but also my mom is really struggling with not accepting, because you were saying, Dr. Knight, earlier about kind of minimizing. I think it was during our strategy session, right? Like minimizing, like I hit a curb, eh, right?
right.
Both of our moms, one of the things we connected over is they both hit their own
The
garages,
garage.
right?
And my garage. So she did too.
Okay. My
She
mom
ran
has
into
only
my
hit her own
garage.
garage.
Yes, and her own garage. And she'll say, but young people do that. And I'm like, but we're not talking about young people. We're talking about you
Well,
doing
maybe
that.
she's like Benjamin Button and she's aging in reverse.
You know what? I want you. This is why he needs to eat. So back to you, Sarah, because who does that?
Right. This is not a major motion picture, as much as we hope. But I think for
That's
me,
funny.
part of it is her grief. And I think society, you know, for all of us, frowns on aging, right? We're supposed to be forever young, and that's just not
Hmm.
the reality of the situation, right? And death and dying, it's something nobody likes to think about or really
Hmm.
reflect on. And so all of that, any sort of aging, realization of aging, is sort of having to sort of really contend with your own mortality, right? And so
Hmm.
I think it's it's difficult. It's difficult to engage with that. My mom really needs knee replacement surgery. She is
Hmm.
hobbling, but she keeps pushing it off. She keeps saying she's tried physical therapy, and they're like, "It is bone on bone, lady. Like
Sis, you got to get it.
you got
Yeah.
to get." And she just will not do it. And I think it's because that is another recognition
Yeah.
that she is of a certain age and she
Mhm.
just doesn't want to deal with it. And I think for a lot of people, there is, there is our grief at sort of seeing the cognitive decline and the physical decline. And it's
Mhm.
gradual. It's not like they're waking up and
No.
don't know their own names, right? But I think there's also inherent grief that they're feeling, right? Because, we're all scared of that, slow walk. And I do think
Yes.
about my mom's parents who both died in
Mhm.
their 60s. So this is sort of new for her, completely cognitively aware. She's 74 at this point.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
she's already in uncharted territory. So what does
Yes.
that look like? What does that mean? And I think it's scary. And I was thinking, it's scary for me too, because
Mhm.
no matter how old you are, when your parents are gone,
Mhm.
you still feel like you
Yes.
lost your anchor, right?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think that is the real fear behind that grief.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
It's a beautiful point. Losing our anchor is, and sometimes when I try to tell my brother, or when I try to tell my brother, and I have a ton of siblings, but me and my older brother are 5 years apart, and we're my mom's only biological children. And so when I would talk to him, or I would talk to my baby sister, and my baby brother, who are equally a part of our quadruplet set, and be like, "Oh, you're being mean." I was always known as, like, I guess I've always told the truth, but it was like, "You're being mean to mom. She's not like that." I'm like, "Why are you laughing, Craig?" I
Objective.
saw, I saw, but I'm known as the, like, you're being mean, right? You're being bluntly too honest, and mom is not that person. And I'm like, I spend more time with mom, not in an arrogant way, not in a y'all suckers ain't doing nothing for mom, but mom was with me from every single weekend. Mom is with me. So I'm on, you called it the walk, right? That gradual walk. I'm on that. I've been on that gradual walk with her to
yeah.
see how she's dealing with the grief of losing my dad, how she's dealing with the grief, or not dealing with the grief of losing my dad, how she's dealing with losing her friends that are in her area, her peer group. Some of her friends' daughters, and I don't know if any of them have sons, but some of her friends' daughters for sure were taking away their parents' keys. And that was a fear for her. And I said, Mom, I don't want you to not be able to drive. I want you to be independent, because I don't ever want to be in a place, and y'all forgive me, single children out there who are in the position where you're the only one that has to change diapers if your parents get to that, or you have to be the ones to make those decisions. I told my mom flat out, I will pay your insurance policy and make sure that you eat well. I tease her about eating cat food, right? Ethel, her name is Mary, but I call her Ethel. It's from a movie. And I'm like, Ethel, did you eat today? Are you eating cat food? Do you have everything you need? I will make sure that my mom has everything that she needs, but she did not raise me to be a caregiver. I've never played that role, and it's not a role I want to play. I said, and she goes, well, I changed your diapers if somebody else said that. And I said, and I'm grateful that you taught me how to potty train. I'm grateful that I've taught my kids how to potty train. I don't want to be in that position, and I don't want to put my kids in that position. What I will do is make sure that you have the best of everything that I can provide for you. You don't know me in my 40s. I don't know you in your 70s. So we got to at some point be on this journey together and have these conversations. But I'm not being mean to recognize truth, or at least the truth the way I see it and the way that I'm experiencing you doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. And so I'm wondering, we talked in our strategy session about, when is that flip of the switch going to happen for me as I'm getting older? So I'm already telling my parents, if I'm acting like Dearest, not being mean, just if I start doing some stuff that doesn't look like me, doesn't sound like me, I want you guys to be honest enough to say, hey, Mom, I'm concerned.
Right.
Out there, Big Daddy's here, I'm married. She's now married to someone else, but we don't know him the same way. So I'm like, I'm looking at both of them going, are y'all all right? Real talk. Are both of y'all all right?
Yeah, I
So
told my kids the same thing, that like I just told Jackson, I think this was on Sunday when he came home. I would do tech support sometimes on the weekends. I said, I was on with a tough customer who was non-technical and rambling, and they wouldn't listen. And I said, "Look, when I get to the point when I can't do things and I'm not technical anymore, please step in and help me take all the technology away from me. I can't be that guy. When I can't
Mm-hmm.
drive anymore and you guys see decline, you gotta step in and do something because I don't want to be the dude out there in Hawaiian shirts which I despise with the ankle high,
And the
nylon shirt.
sandals.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Box and sandals.
I can't wear them Jesus sandals and stuff. They're all wonderful and everything. And shout out to the people who aren't sponsoring the show, Birkenstock and everything. But I can't wear them things. Now, if you support the show, I'll wear them. I'll rock them with a 3-piece suit. I'll have them in every color you want. But I won't wear the Hawaiian
That's a
shirt.
shame.
I'm just saying. Oh, one thing I was going to jump into because it got me on the joke side. Facts are friendly, not always favorable though. So when we deal with people and we give people the truth about how we see our truth of them or that situation or even ourselves, I think it's amazing to recall because I used to be the guy that used to withhold the truth to people at my own expense. And I would always roam around just feeling some kind of way. And I don't want to hold that anymore because, you hold in anything, gas especially, you're gonna be in pain until you let that. I waited till you got that in your mouth. I wanted to see if you were going.
Ah,
I hope you hear that
I like the
punchline
delivery too, as if it were just.
with the slow. I slow walk.
That's another thing of decline. I mean, okay, I'm not going to talk about just my mom in this moment because I had collective stories of like as parents are getting older, they just lose like what's the word courteousness.
Yeah, my mother
Culture.
from down south.
They, I mean, just walking down, like, what? Do you not see me in the room with you? It's natural. It's just yeah. And I'm like, but you taught me that was wrong. Why are you doing that? Okay, sorry.
Yes.
Go ahead, Craig.
That is very true. I often wonder if there's like some muscle weakness situation.
Might be. But can we have that conversation? Like we're going to talk about menopause and all the things. And men don't think that they have menopause. They do. They have their own season. But it's like some things are passed down to us that as women we talk about, and I think that's an important thing to talk about. Like what is really happening? Like
Right.
I need to be aware of that. And because sometimes, Craig, where you were going was we want our kids to tell us.
Yeah.
But then I go, when they tell me, am I going to act like how my mom acts? Am I going to be so wrapped up into, I'm 70 something years old, I've lived on this earth, I raised you, I know better, da 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 da, you can't tell. So there's this dance, that I want to be open. And so it's like, oh, I'm opening the door for them to tell me, but I'm not there yet. So how am I going to respond when I am there and I know that they're telling me the truth? That's going to be my prayer from now on.
I
Help me
do
to
wonder
accept
that.
those
I mean,
things.
speaking of breaking generational curses, because we're
Yes.
breaking generational cycles, because I do not think, I mean, when you were saying that, Craig, I cannot imagine a scenario in which I tell my mom, I don't think you need to be driving anymore, especially not my kids. And
Yep.
that's terrible. Like, they are my children. I should put them first. But at the same time, she has her hooks in me, right? Like, I am scared of her in a way that I am scared of no other woman on this earth.
Yeah.
So I cannot imagine
Yes.
telling her. I mean, because I guess when you're over a certain age, you do have to get a vision test to renew your license. So
Yes.
but she passed her vision test. I'm like, that's all they needed? They didn't need you to do a little loop around the block or.
Hey, to your
Need
point,
a
though,
blood
Sarah,
sample.
I honestly wish that the Department of Motor Vehicles for every state in every one of this places, Great Republic, would make the people get a driver's test and a written test as an adult from age 50 on every 2 years. And then when you get to be 60 or 65, we need to take like every 3 months because some folks can't drive. You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't understand why they didn't do. I mean, like, there's clearly scientific evidence, right, to support the necessity of that. And
Yeah.
yet they're doing vision tests
Yes.
Well, it's the big E though, right? Can you see the big E?
But you can wear your glasses though too, right? And so I agree, Sarah. I asked my mom. I said, you. She's like, I renewed my license today, Shelly, and I'm like, oh, you did? I said, did you have to take a driving test? She said, no. After 70, you don't have to do it anymore. And I was like, I said,
You do that
and
every
she
day.
said, well, I don't have any infractions. She's gonna kill me, but I don't care. She's like, I don't have any infractions. I said, I beg to differ. Well,
No,
I said, you don't have any legal infractions. You haven't got a speeding ticket. Your insurance paid for the garage. There hasn't been
Right.
anything that you've been reported for because we love you, so but you should have had a test. And so now I'm trying to get one of the advice that I received from one of my friends on the other side of this who so this conversation is kind of two parts. This is aging parents, parenting parents, and then there's the group that's after diagnosis of the dementia, the Alzheimer's, the Parkinson's, and what that does. And I have three sister friends who are on the other side of that and actually have established different businesses and foundations to help people like us, Sarah, before we get to that space of things that we should be aware of. And one of the things that one of my friends said is you got to go to the doctor with her. And I've tried. And so she'll say, oh, I went to my mammogram. I'm like, that's not the appointment that I want. Like, I want your neurology appointment because, I'm concerned, I'm genuinely concerned, not that she's going crazy. And I think that's the stigma. It's more like, what should we be doing to support you at this age? And I want you to maintain your independence. At the same time, your safety is most important to me. And I want you around as long as you can be around. And that's where this is coming from. So it's not about stripping you from these things. It's about understanding the limitations. And I think that's the thing. The limitation is what we want to ignore and minimize.
Mm-hmm. And I think the other piece too, I was thinking about is like the emotional support that is
Yeah.
sort of required in parenting. So as a parent, right, like of children, you're concerned with your child's emotional well-being.
Yeah.
You want them to have, you want them to do well academically, you want them to have, social life, you want them to have extracurriculars that they're engaged in, all these pieces. But I find that like when your parents get older, their world gets smaller and smaller and smaller, right? They're no longer, working. They may go to church, they may volunteer, but like in terms of day to day, my parents, in large part, are sitting at their house. My mom comes 3 days a week and picks up my children and drives them around. But other than that, they're there, right? And
Isolated.
so she'll call about things that are a blip on my radar, right? But are huge to her. Like the most recent is like we both have dogs that have to get groomed. So she uses my groomer. It's it's fine. I've made the appointment. It's on Tuesdays tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. I haven't even thought, like, I'm just going to take the dog. She wants to coordinate when we're getting there so we can meet up. I mean, just wants to have a 30-minute phone conversation about something in my life that is very small, does not warrant a conversation. I don't have time for it, to be frank.
Yes. Yeah.
And so and there's countless examples of that, right? Like, and so trying to figure out like how to engage her, talk to her about things that seemingly matter without, hurting her feelings, making her feel valued, making her, but you kind of want to say, I'm too busy. I have all these things.
My
So,
mom's classic line is, you talk to your clients like that? They pay you to talk to them like that? And I'm like, yes. You want to know why, Mom? Because I'm telling them the truth and I'm not telling them what to do. I'm allowing them to figure it out. And what you want from me sometimes is deniability, that I told you to do something that didn't work. So then you can say, see, it didn't work. And then on the flip side, I'm going, I want to cherish every moment I have with you, no matter how silly that picture is that you drew, little child, right? No matter how, I'm like, what the? is that? Like, and I learned as a preschool teacher not to do that. So I would say, tell me about your picture.
Right.
So she actually knows when I say, tell me about such and such. She knows that it's just
You're humoring her. Yeah.
Yes. And that's hard because I know I'm going to miss those moments. But it's like right now, let's talk about what is important. And I had that conversation this week, and I'm not going to bring it up. I mean, I brought it up that I did, but I'm not going to tell you about it. But I had one of those kind of Jesus conversations this weekend because I'm like, enough is enough. Yeah. And this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm hearing. And I'm trying my best. Crucial conversations, path of action, my best not to make up a story. So I'm going to come to you before I get to the story because I'm emotional about it. So before I get to the story, let's sit down and talk. And we did. And she validated and verified every fear that I had at the same time. Now I know what I'm dealing with. So that feels better. So now we can have the next level conversation. And I'm going to use that relationship currency to say, Mom, you trusted me with this piece of information. Please trust me with this. I'm not going to manipulate you. I love you as much as you love me. And you might even love me more because I think I love my kids more than I love myself sometimes. So I want you to know, like, our relationship is so critical and so important to me that I'm willing to risk everything to help preserve that. So trust me, and I think that may be a way that we may help others is to use that relationship currency. And if you don't have it, you got to build it because if the person, doesn't matter what the relationship is, parent or not, friend or foe, if they don't trust you, then we're not getting anywhere anyway. It's in one ear and out the other.
Yeah, it's funny. We said something earlier and we put the phrase back. It's not about stripping you of anything. It's about empowering you. And
yes.
That's where, even as active parents right now, we have to keep doing that with our kids, that we're not trying to strip any power from you that you're trying to gather and gain growing up. It's about empowering you. And then definitely carry that into when they're doing that to us, and as we're having to do that with, for those of us who have parents. An example of this one for me is last week, part of the suckage was we have water damage repair being done in our home, and our driveway was completely blocked. It's a 3-car driveway. All 3 bays were blocked. Could not get out. My son was going to go to practice, and back end of school, he was sick earlier that day. We had enough room to back the cars down, and he could drive across the front between the garage and the front of the cars and go across the yard. Yeah, the yard is a low maintenance yard, and it has an RV access, so it makes sense to go that way.
Oh, okay.
I knew I needed to move my 21-year-old's car back, but there was enough room to get the Suburban between the house and my car. But my gut told me, you know what, you need to move your car back. So the 16-year-old won't make it. And I said, oh, or just drive it yourself. I can make it. But I just don't think he gonna make it. I chose not to strip him of any power, and because he wanted to do it so bad, to prove to me that he could do it. But you don't have to prove anything to me. To himself, maybe just live. But since I didn't move my car and I wasn't obedient, I stripped myself of my own power, and he hit the car. Now, my car's not undrivable. It's got enough color paint change on the front of it as a reminder to me that, you know what? I've got to be truthful at every point, no matter how much it costs the other person. My emotional currency and mental currency is valued enough where I don't tell you the truth in a way that hopefully you can understand it. We're both going to have a problem. And so we've been spending time cleaning up that mess, not in front of my car, but just the learning experience that I was able to share with him. It's going to be a costly experience. But I'm just saying, at my age, I said, at 55, we still have to be obedient. We still have to use reason. We still have to be obedient, right? And we still make mistakes. And I should never put you in a position like that at 16 to have made this choice. So yeah, it probably helped him a lot, but it also helped me. So this is a part of what we have to be able to not strip ourselves of who we are while still not stripping our parents or children at the same time, and then continue to empower them to be better.
What I also heard is this is the second car incident that you had in the week, which is a conversation that me and Sarah have had often.
Oh no, what's no? See, no, when I hit the curve, that was months and months ago. That was like 6 months ago, and I wouldn't
Oh,
drive.
so we're just hearing about it right now.
Maybe
Yeah.
Craig's sons should be on the show.
I
See, they'll tell you the same thing. No, I wouldn't even drive it. I was just standing inside going, wait. Oh,
Yeah, I am not ready for my sons to start driving.
oh, it's amazing.
ugh,
So you know what
it's
scared me the most? So when my oldest son, Shane, he's 28 now. So 12 years ago when he got his license, watching him drive away in my late wife's Sequoia, I was like, oh damn, this is gonna be a problem. And I just felt so helpless. Why
Yeah.
did that happen? So I ran in the house real quick and I looked out the window because we could see the part of the road behind the house. I stood there until I could not see that car. I squinted. I thought I could still see it and imagine him because he should be here right now. Okay, he's gonna go this way. Man, I think I had a migraine for like 6 days.
Oh, I bet. But this is what I think. So my husband and son actually just left on. He had they had a school trip for 3 days, and my husband and son are just so much alike that they constantly butt heads, right?
oh
Like
yeah.
my son triggers Mike all the time. So he actually wore this. It's his dad. It's like a watch that was his dad's, and so he wears it. And he doesn't like watches. He doesn't like anything around his wrist, but he wears it as a sign to himself to remind him to be compassionate to his son. So that is
Beautiful.
just to like a physical reminder. It's a like a thing on his wrist that he feels to remind him to show compassion. And I think Mike is triggered by his son because he is so much like him,
Mhm.
and Mike knows the hardships that it's ADHD related, right? And he
Mhm.
knows the hardships that has created in his life, and he feels helpless to sort of help my son overcome that, right? And I think bringing this back to my own mother, right? Like I feel the same way. It's like it's almost like I need to start leading with compassion instead of, because I think
Mhm.
she's triggering something in me
Yeah,
that I feel helpless to do anything about, right? And that is fear of losing her.
yeah,
Mhm.
And I think that's the reality is like all of this increase in parenting is sort of leading us to an eventuality that is scary. And so what
Mhm.
I tend to do when I'm afraid is like micromanage, like, okay, let's turn up the control to full maximum
Yeah.
capacity. I can do this. Like I'll just handle everything, right? And I think that probably makes things worse. I know my mother doesn't like
Mhm.
to be handled.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I
don't
do think
handle me.
so probably like coming from a state of compassion,
Yeah,
even though I don't again think there's ever a scenario in which I can tell her she has no business driving, which she will accept.
Well, I could tell her. I could tell her that that doesn't mean she's gonna go down and turn herself in. I've been a bad girl, like
Yeah,
you,
she's gonna say
but
that's cute. I will now be driving off into the sunset. Thanks.
yeah. Because what's funny
yeah.
too about because my parents didn't get to that point. My mom died before driving was a issue, right? But I look at Shell, your mom driving her husband around. I'm not using
I did
that
not tell you we
bluntly,
weren't talking about
but it's like
did
show
not
her who she.
did not tell you we weren't talking about certain things on
I'm just saying that is a
this episode.
scary picture right there in my
It
mind.
is.
I'm like, oh Lord,
It is.
because
It is.
because her
It's
husband couldn't even tell her to watch out because he can't see.
stop it. It's frightening for a different reason. It, we are now back to the regular programming. His eyesight is actually perfect. He doesn't even wear glasses.
Oh, yeah, because
So,
we all see what we want to see, so our vision's always sunny.
you know what?
Okay.
So, you were talking about Mike's reminder of compassion. And earlier, when Craig was saying, like, it would be okay for his kids to tell him, like, technology thing or whatever, like, to challenge him on that, I was like, ooh, I should get a tattoo of something that reminds me.
When you're
Like
in cognitive
you
decline.
you ask them to do this, like, you know what I mean, like something I can physically see and feel. um because it's like I agree with you 100%, Sarah. My mom and I'm similar like my mom in terms of like the path of our life of education and teaching and speaking and all the things, very public position. My personality is more like my dad's. So I'm more direct, more this is how it is. You're not gonna misunderstand my words because I'm telling you what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling. My muscle very organized and things like that. So I kind of get a little bit of that from both of my parents, probably more so of what I've seen with my mom being organized and being able to juggle all these balls and all of that. So I am a controlling person. I've worked on that for a very long time. So I am better, but I know that is my fatal flaw. And so I have practiced for at least the last 5 to 7 years of giving people their stuff back. Meaning, and I said this on other shows, like I cannot manage my relationship with you and manage your relationship with Craig. If you and Craig have a problem, you and Craig need to deal with that. And if you want to role play with me, like then my coach hat is out. I'm like, you want to role play with me around how you can approach that conversation with Craig? I'm happy to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm not going to do is be your mouthpiece to say what you think, because inevitably it's going to be no, Dr. Knight, that's not quite what I meant. Show, that's not what I quite meant. Well, what do you mean? And we can save all of this if you would just have the conversation.
Right.
So that's one way I've been coping with some of the challenges with my mom when I see myself. Particularly, I'm a sentimental person, and I find myself holding on to those ugly pictures, and going, oh, I really, oh, that was so sweet, that was so thoughtful. So, but then I'm going to end up with the corner full of ugly pictures that I don't need anymore because there's no longer serving a purpose, except now I got to go out and pay a dollar a pound for all the shredding that needs to happen, or I got to go out and get a burn permit and go out, in the middle of Santa Ana's and burn all this paper, right?
Don't do that.
Right. So that's what happens with my mom, though. All of the sentimental things, all of the things that mean something become clutter. And when I started seeing myself stacking, I was like, oh no, we gotta change. So I'm like, the city of Troy is officially burning, like, because I saw myself in that fear of I'm becoming not my mom in the most beautiful ways, like I'm aging gracefully. My mom doesn't look 77. I want that. So I want to pick and choose what I want, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to pick and choose what I want. But it's those things that are like inside of us that sometimes we don't get to pick. We don't get to choose until we can recognize it and then deal with that thing. Because other than that, that switch is one stroke away from turning on to being that.
Yeah.
What's funny as we're talking, I find that we're going to be able to help people in this space
Mm-hmm.
because as we ourselves are in it or gradually in it or having come through it, we're going to be able to leverage the feeling that we have in putting ourselves and projecting ourselves onto or into that future, right? And how we would want other people to deal with us. It may or may not help radically when we get there because it's still up to us in terms of how we respond and deal with people. But I know for the two of you all, this is what you all do. You have the tools to provide people who are untooled to navigate this, how to not screw people, right? And not to beat them over the head with a hammer. It's just, how can I finish that wall that may be crumbling? How can I repaint that? How can I put the texture back on this wall after it's been repaired? And then understand that at some point, I shouldn't really use the tools anymore because they become dangerous even in my own hand to be able to hold them. So then I've got to become a coach to then walk folks through how to use the tool in an effort not to hurt someone. If that makes any sense. I love that because on the show we've talked a lot about setting boundaries and how we teach other people how we need to be loved and want to be handled. I believe that as we're moving through, I encourage you ladies to begin to help the people who are in the position and walking through it. Teach us how to be able to have those tools so we can be handled with grace and dignity as we get to the point in decline.
I do think a lot could be said because what I realize is we're sort of tiptoeing around things that we don't know that objectively could be figured out, right? The medical piece I think is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, cognitive decline is real, but I think it's something that we don't talk about. I think
Mm-hmm.
doctors don't talk about enough with people who are aging. I know, like even perimenopause, menopause, right? I feel
Yep.
like just now for women, this is starting to get attention. Whereas
Yep.
before, it was like, I feel crazy. All of my body is malfunctioning. And it's like, well,
Yeah. Yeah.
you'll be fine. It's just some hot
Yeah.
flashes, right? But like everything changes in a woman's body during menopause. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think if you really look at that and a doctor can prepare you for that, and we begin to understand that, like from an objective, you know, medical perspective, like that cognitive decline, that piece could be really helpful. So people don't feel like it's personal to them. I mean, I think
Mm-hmm.
for me as a woman, understanding perimenopause as a part of womanhood is really
Yes.
helpful because it makes you feel like it normalizes something that is normal versus
Yes.
making you feel different or wrong or somehow broken, right, in your
Yeah.
body. So I think the same thing is true for cognitive decline. I think that would be really helpful. The other piece is exactly what you're talking about, Craig, is like coaching family dynamics because what we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about is not just cognitive decline, we're talking about family dynamics and all of that baggage before we actually get to this space. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Michelle and I talked about what our mothers taught us and what they
Mm-hmm.
meant to us, right? What our parents taught us and meant to us before they got to this point, and then how we
Mm-hmm.
rectify who they are now and who they are sort of moving toward.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the other piece is support systems. I do not
Mm-hmm.
think there is enough support for people who are engaging with aging parents. I think, even those who are aging, I think oftentimes it's like, well, if you're ready to go to a home, let us know. Instead of,
Yeah.
you know, instead of
Yeah.
like, what are things that, where can, people who are aging engage uh, socially? Where
Yes.
is that support group? Because I think that's really necessary. And I think we just assume that they're not useful to society after a certain point. And I think
Mm.
that's untapped
Mm-hmm.
wisdom, untapped support. And that's unfortunate, right? Like really unfortunate because there's an incredible amount of wisdom there. Um, not technological wisdom, but
I was waiting.
Present day technology, it may have been about that.
right, right. I mean, they could tell you what like a cassette tape was. I saw like NFL rookies recently. They were showing them like what floppy disk. They handed them floppy disk and like cassette tapes and CDs and asked them what each of them were called, and they were like, "I don't know.
But
I don't
isn't
know."
that wild though?
And like a VHS, they didn't know. I was like, "Oh my
And
god, it's
that's
so
and that's
old."
just a 50-year swing. I
I
remember
know.
my
We're
dad, he bought our first VHS recorder. It was a Mitsubishi with the remote that's actually fit inside of the unit for storage. And we were fascinated, like,
Yeah.
ooh, and it cost him like $1,500. And back then, $1,500
Yeah.
was
That's a lot.
so much. I know. My dad had like the over the shoulder camcorder you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
The
Yes.
big, and we thought we were so cool.
Man.
and never watched the stuff again, probably after well, I mean, maybe probably for the first 2 months after. Then they sat on shelf. You probably have boxes somewhere of those.
Well, we still have boxes of VHS tapes because at the point where I was going through my divorce, and I had my sons, my two youngest sons, full time, and I had their older sister kind of part time or weekend. I didn't have cable because I couldn't afford cable, and I had the dual player with the. We still have it to this
I was
day.
gonna say, Do you still have it? Can you still
We
play
still
this?
have it.
Okay.
It's downstairs in what we call the strange room. We have 3 levels in our house, and so downstairs is the
Strange room.
master. There's 2 rooms down there. There's a complete ensuite. That's our oldest son's room, and then there's another room where the people who lived here before had foster kids, and so they had like multiple beds in there, and it's we call it the strange room because it has like different levels in the room. And it's like, okay, so we're gonna do something amazing with it. But right now, that's where the VHS tapes are,
Okay.
the DVDs, and the dual player. And so every now and again, we will bring that out and we will watch those movies. So Caitlin didn't know what it was at first, but the boys in their 20s absolutely do. But that came out of a place of struggle. Like they probably wouldn't have known if me and Steve got married back then and we were able to, do what we're doing now, work together, partner together, and build from technology from that point.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Caitlin didn't know what a wall phone was or a rotary phone. Or sometimes I'm speaking at different places and I'm like, I'm old enough to remember when you had to carry, a thing of quarters or dimes or nickels or whatever. And you had to know how to call collect because there were no cell phones.
Right.
Like
Pay phones.
you
I
had
do.
to get out of
Yeah.
your car and use a payphone.
We are gonna be our parents. We are going to, even now, my 10-year-old son has to show me things on his iPad. And I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, you
Caitlin
can do
kept
that.
changing my phone. She kept changing the cover on my. I'm like, what in the world is going on?
I
And
learned
she
how to
and
Airstream from my 10-year-old.
real talk. And that's different from airdropping photos, right?
I mean, like AirPlay, like from your phone to
Oh,
your
from
TV.
your phone to your TV?
Yeah. I was like,
Yes.
you can do this? What?
Yes. Yet, oh my gosh, Sarah, it's happening already.
I know. You do need that tattoo. I'm gonna have to get it too. We can get matching tattoos.
Let's do it. I'm coming to Georgia. We're
Okay.
getting it. We're getting it.
Deal. You come, we'll get it.
Sincerely, like it's already happening. And I think that reality is like going from here to 40 something went so fast. My birth children are 22 and 20. They're gonna be 23 and 21. Caitlin's 10. Like, where the heck did the time go? So that's the scary part.
That's the scary part, because even having prep for this show, right? I began to have these conversations like, damn, in my head, of course, what do I do when my son started to want to take things from me? But I'm also reminded that, I need to give some things away before that. I need to give away like the PIN number to my, debit card and my business accounts, how to get in, because if I become, not if, but when I get to the point where I'm incapacitated and not able to think rationally, right, and decide for myself, short of them having to go get a court order, right, I would want them to be able to handle things with the business and my own personal finance.
That is a great point.
And I need to, like we had, Taylor on the show talking about what we should be doing to prepare the break glass, documents. Where is all of that? And we need to have those, conversations early. So it's not such a, burden and grief stricken kind of thing. It's let's think clearly now because the rain is gone and deal through how we're going to get there. Because when I become unable to physically participate, right, they're going to need to take over. And they're not going to always want to do it, but the one that can needs to know. And then the ones that know that he can, they need to know what he can just in case they have to. Because if he can't, they're all going to need to know. So I think it's critical. And it's funny, while the whole time on this show, I've been lifing on the side. 3 of my sons have been texting me, which they never really do during the day. And it's interesting when we're having this topic that I'm having these interactions with my sons, because where we talked about, we didn't even get to this section 2 from our strategy about having gatherings and our parents still want to participate. I find myself in my empty nesting stages trying to coordinate now with 3 sons that don't live in my house anymore. So we're trying to coordinate where we're all going to be and how can we get together and how can we be together. And if it's not,
wait, Craig, don't you have 4? Oh no, Caden's still there. Okay, my bad.
Right, Caden's still here.
Yeah, got
Jackson. But so Sarah, Caden's 21. He's my second son, and he lives with me. He goes to local JC, and he's a what do you call this, pastry chef. And so he desires to leave the house and go away to school next year, but he's still planning that, right? But I've got a son in Arizona, and I say, hey, are you coming for Thanksgiving? And he called. That's what if you heard the noise in the background, but he called. So I'm working with him. Is he coming for Thanksgiving? Is he going to wait till Christmas? And he wants me to keep his dogs, and there are 100-pound Rottweiler and pit bull.
How do they get along with Phil and Claire?
Okay, so Phil and Claire, these little 17 or 18-pound Chihuahua Terrier mixes.
Phil and Claire don't sound like they're big dogs.
No, Phil and Claire tiny. Tiny. Well, not tiny, but he's little. It's compared to dogs. But Claire and Phil were terrified of Jax, the older.
Well, that means Phil and Claire are smart.
Oh yeah, but when what's this kid? The new dog. His name is Jax. No, I don't know what this new dude. I can't remember the new dog name. The Rottweiler. That dog is like maybe two. 125 pounds of slobber and energy.
Rotties are
so when my dogs went from being terrified of Jax to now they're Jax's best friend because he's their protector. So when the Rottweiler just wants to play and jump around and he doesn't realize he's knocking over the furniture and everything.
Yeah.
Jax is like, stop it. And he protects the two younger ones. And so
Aw.
when Claire realized that, he protected me, she instantly now loves him. She'll go wherever Jax is. She'll sit with him and, and she'll even stick up for herself against the Rottweiler because she knows that Jax has
got her back.
And so she's got this new confidence now, like, I'm a big dog. My friend has got me. My pack leader has got, and so and I ramble on that just to say, I think as pack leaders, we need to make sure we understand what the succession planning looks like because it's crazy out here.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you said pack leaders, I thought of myself as, the leader of the pack, not only of my home, but as my mom's oldest birth daughter. And so it's like, Mom. So going back to your original question around strategies or what we should be doing, I think one of the things that's really important to me is being able to have those conversations, like honest, true conversations, building that trust to say, listen, what did this guy say on Bringing Down the House? The cool points is out the window. I'm all caught up in the game. Like I'm here with you, Mom, because I care. And I don't care if I cry. I don't like to cry. I don't care if I cry. I don't care if I stumble over my words. I don't care if what I'm saying doesn't make complete sense to me, even why I'm saying it, but I gotta say it. I gotta get it out. Let's talk. We have to be on the same page. I love you enough and I need you to trust me enough, right? It's not a complete role reversal, but it kind of is. So what were your concerns? This is a conversation I'm thinking about having with my mom. Mom, when I was a baby, what were you most concerned about? When I was an adolescent, what were you most, when I was a teenager, before I got married, but I was dating these crazy guys, what were your concerns, right? Because I have those same similar concerns with where you are now. These are my concerns. Now, you're not an adolescent. Maybe you are in technology, but you're a young adult, in terms of the driving world, where if you know enough about the law, like not to break it intentionally, but you can be a little racist, so it's these different stages and how they're showing up. And my concern as now the adult, watching over my baby, watching over. I think that's what I want to do.
Yeah, and a young adult in terms of like the world sort of taking advantage of them. You know what I mean? That's the piece too. Like my mom does things all the time. She'll buy warranties for everything. I'm like, no.
For a paper.
Yeah, I'm like, no. Why? That thing's not gonna last 2
Scam
years.
calls, check your bank account, and then give me your PIN number over the phone. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yes, I mean it is like the modern day like televangelist on television. I'm just like, what did you donate money to this time?
Drink the bleach.
Please stop. Yes. Please stop. But she just, yeah, it is swayed by any sort of advertisements on social media, right?
Mm,
Like just spends money like there's no tomorrow. So I also worry about that too. But
yeah.
Craig, to your point, I think I mean, my husband's father died without warning and had none of his financial nothing in order.
Yeah.
So it took
Mm,
Mike and his sister a year plus to kind of handle his estate. And just by chance, Mike's sister guessed his like iPhone code because they don't give you that. If you don't know it, you don't know it, you know? So, I mean, it just was a mess. And so I think that is a good way to parent your parents is actually just like sitting down and having the discipline to have that conversation too. Um, that was a good reminder for me because that's hard too. Because again, that reminds everyone of their mortality, but that's also a really smart conversation to have.
You've got to,
Um,
because we're taught, right, to leave a legacy for our children's children,
mhm,
and we're going to leave the legacy whether we think we are or not. So let's
mhm,
be purposeful, right, in what we're leaving. Are we going to leave the junk behind and all the hoarded junk that we had, or are we going to leave
mhm.
some useful tools and information? And that's where I'm at right now. I just got done texting, sending a message to my oldest son. He's asked me to watch these dogs again. No, not again, but during that conversation, he and his girl are going to Italy for almost a month. Well, yeah, so we're going to have these big dogs, but I was like, let me shift from that work to the fact that, hey, I'm going to go to Italy too. You know, let's go to Italy before you can have to wheel me around. But I'm like, no, no, let's not go for that reason. I want to go because I've never been there. I want
Mhm,
to go well, I can get around on my own. I want to go. And
mhm.
how cool would it be to travel with Shane and his girl, or and how cool would it be just to travel by, just to go? So I'm flipping that away. So we talk about let's make some memories that
mhm.
when it gets to a point where I can't do these things like I used to, they'll have that too. I remember we took this trip with dad. We did this because their mom's gone. You know what I'm
Mhm,
saying? So they can't create any more memories
mhm.
with her. They have what they have.
Yeah.
I want to be able to, I have to be responsible now for what do I want to do with
You're
my
their
kids.
anchor.
Got to, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to, I don't want to anchor them to me, right? But they're anchored to me anyway, but I don't want to be
You don't
the
want to be the weight. You don't want to be the.
Yeah.
right,
Mhm,
right.
mhm,
And maybe that's a post I'll put that in the bottom too. I want to be an anchor, not a weight.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, the time has really been well spent and great information. Typically, Craig will ask us, what's one thing you want to take away? So I would love for you to share, Sarah, what's one takeaway you would want our listeners or viewers to know about parenting parents and something that they can either do or remember?
Yeah, I think it's easy to get caught up in the frustration of it all. I mean, we're busy, we're overwhelmed. This seems like one more thing, but sort of remembering to lead with compassion, I think is really
Mhm.
important. I think I kind of talked myself into that today.
For sure.
um, just because, like you said, Michelle, we're going to be there one day.
Mhm.
And I think figuring out um, kind of the root of the frustration or why it triggers you so much for them to sort of be all
Mhm.
over the place and kind of better understanding that, leading with compassion, having hard conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be mine. Like, have the conversation, write it out, talk to yourself. There's nothing wrong with talking to yourself. Now we start answering ourselves. Me and Sarah may have some different conversations with you, but it is absolutely important to get clear on what you want, clear what's in your heart, and be able to strategize around that and to have that conversation with that person, that the parent, the grandparent, whomever it is that has that you have that bond with, and kind of not suppress the fear, but recognize that there is fear because we are all going to be there. So why not talk about how to make that journey the best that it could be? So I want to say thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us today. It has been absolutely phenomenal. Craig, I would
Great.
love for you to close out with your thing, but I would be remiss if we didn't say thank you, Sarah, for joining.
Oh,
Thank
yeah,
you both.
most definitely appreciate you, Sarah. We'll definitely have you back because I definitely would love to see how that leading with compassion has changed the dynamic between you and your mom, and even eventually, I believe we're going to be together as a squad, long term. So maybe we can even come back as we become, on the other end. It's like, what these kids did today, they took my keys yesterday.
Do you think
Yeah.
StreamYard's still going to be around? We
Well,
might have to learn a different. We're going to have to stay up on the game. That's what it is. We're going to have to
look
stay up on the game.
It's true.
phone network because we may not be able to make it down to the strange room, in your house unless we come to the garage, the long.
The strange room makes me really nervous.
It should, Sarah. Trust.
Right now with storage and luggage, and there's a bed down there. But
What's funny is
I feel like there might be ghosts too.
no, the Holy Ghost.
I haven't been in the strange room, but I know that door is a little colder. Not playing. Just kidding.
I cannot.
No, but
That's funny.
I think though, my takeaway is just being intentional and really shifting our view from the negative parts, not dismissing them of what's the journey is. And like you, Sarah, so you've talked about, having those crucial conversations and be willing, especially if it deals with us. We've got to be the initiator and the catalyst for those conversations and live into the memories and create them and keep it moving because, Michelle, your mom or your dad was the connector on your side of the family that I knew of, right? And I don't know who that connector is. I would say, maybe it's you because I know you, but
You keep telling me that.
Well, and only because I just know. I mean, I know your brother too, but your brother doesn't strike me as a connector. He strikes me as a pillar, but not a connector. People want to connect to him. He may not be the one that's connected back to them in the same kind of way as a connector or the glue, right, that keeps families together, like my mom was, my late mother-in-law was, and my late wife was. When those three ladies died, our families on this side were pretty much in shambles because we didn't have a reason to stay connected. And now that they're gone, a lot of these relationships are gone. And so that's a tragedy. But hey, it is what it is. I just know my role. I'm not a connector, but I know I am connected to certain people, and I steward those and set the proper expectations for, and not just let them flounder. And so I'm using that as my motivation, even in this topic of parenting parents, that, hey, I've got a role to play and I need to play my role better moving into these stages of my life, whatever these are, from 55 to infinity and beyond. Right. So yeah, for those of you, appreciate you for watching and listening. Follow us on social media, on Instagram and Facebook, and Craig. And there should be show topics. If you want to be a guest, this would represent our last episode for season 3. Crazy in itself. 36 episodes in the book, coming up on 1 calendar year. Always follow us, like us, tell a friend to tap in. If you have other information you want to send us, you always can email us at knightandcraigshow@gmail.com. Season 4 is going to be just as wild and loose as season 1, 2, and 3. And as we're prepping for that, there'll be some downtime weeks between season 4 and the end of season 3. Go back, listen, tap in, get it part of this catch up. You got 36 episodes to watch, and it's all out there, YouTube, all them places. Anyway, we love you all. We appreciate you all. Thank you for taking the time. Again, I'm Craig, and she is Dr. Knight. Thank you again, Dr. Prince. We'll see you all next time.
I came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mighty is with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascend and word, bending birds, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh. This antithesis of mess, it's the verses of green. So long, you better catch a God form to sing. Dreams manifested, you get what I mean. God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked in like a key. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Sitting on the throne with a crown, I'm a king. Yeah, I think we got one.